Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the first Map 5 of 2023. It's been a little while. Just to give you a quick update, basically, for a bunch of reasons, things got super busy for us at the end of last year, and it just became non-feasible for us to keep doing this podcast in the way we're doing it. But it's January. No one's got anything better to do, so here we are back with the podcast. You may notice we don't have Ethan with us today. Ethan is currently on holiday in Prague. Instead, we have the wonderful and very talented Flutey joining us. Flutey, welcome to the podcast. For those that don't know you, why don't you give us a quick introduction of yourself?
Hi, well, I'm the head Overwatch coach for Illinois State University, Redbird Esports, and I'm just happy to be here in the kickoff episode.
Yeah, we have been trying to get you on this podcast since I think like episode 3, so we are super stoked to finally have you on this. So we will move into like the main body of the podcast, which of course will be the conversation with Flutey. But we've got a bunch of news items to get through, and just to waylay any concerns, we are aware that a lot of stuff happened between this point and the last podcast we had. We won't be covering all of it. We'll do some Cliff Notes versions here and there, and instead we'll just give you like the stuff that's relevant for the here and now. So starting with our first news item of 2023, those of you that find yourself drawn to everyone's favorite battle healer, Mercy, may want to turn your eyes towards Skitsy's Mercy tournament that is coming up in a couple of weeks, end of the month. Big prize pool available. I believe it's going to be fully produced and cast and everything. So this is a tournament in which Mercy needs to be played in every single round at every single point. Should be a lot of fun, I think.
I actually noticed that Sojourn wasn't allowed at all.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I read the rule book and I was like, that's interesting. Kind of fun.
I think it's a good change. It's, we'll probably see a lot of Soldier 76, but that's, still like, I like the idea of not having Sojourn in every match. Let's change it up a little bit. There's been a lot of talk about Mercy recently, so I think the timing on this is quite interesting.
Well, yeah, it's actually, I watched some of SVB had a podcast earlier today where he had Unsalted Salt for some reason, EVA and Skitsy to talk about Roadhog and Mercy changes, and it's really interesting listening to Skitsy talking about like what she thinks the problems and potential fixes are. So if you have some time and you're done watching Map 5, go check out the SVB podcast. It's very interesting.
Yeah, indeed. Moving right along. Oh yeah. I heard there's a lot of salt coming out from Salt there. But some really unorthodox takes. But I mean, who could have expected that? Moving right along, though, Maryville Esports has announced their roster for the spring 2023 season, and Mikey Falls King, Tree, Cyrus, Juby, and Iced moving into the coaching role. Interested to see how this roster is going to play out for the spring split. I tell you what, I mean, we've heard some rumblings from a lot of people that we know about this roster. But you know what? It is what it is. We're going to see how they actually can compete in the spring split. I mean, there's no denying that Tree is a great player. But I tell you what, this is going to be interesting going into the spring split for Collegiate.
Everyone's talking about Tree, but the rest of this roster is so strong. I mean, King, getting King back in Path to Pro. This is gonna be a huge move. This is gonna be a tough roster. I know you've got your eyes on this one here. You've got to, as head coach of Redbirds, seeing what to expect.
And we're like friends with a lot of these. We've always had a good like scrim relationship with like the Odyssey folk. So like, of course, I'm always rooting for them. I'm always rooting for a healthy collegiate scene, and that's obviously a killer roster. I mean, we're still looking to win, and we're happy for the competition.
Love it.
Cool announcement video too. I gotta give the graphics person credit on this. This is a cool announcement video. Yeah. All right. I assume by
the radio silence that it is now your turn to speak. Yes, correct.
Awesome.
We've got to get you a second monitor, my guy.
I have a second monitor. I need a third one.
Oh, can we get you a third one?
Right. I do. I need a third one.
Writing it down now.
2 is just not enough. All right. Moving right along. This is just a cool little tidbit, like Crazy Racoon. It's an esports team that was established in 2018, making their entrance into Overwatch.
Yeah, and this is, I think, traditionally an Ethan news item because he has his eye on APAC in particular.
He does have his finger on the pulse over there.
Yeah, Crazy Racoon, whilst we might not recognize the name here in the West in the Overwatch sphere, are massive, particularly in Japan. Like if you tab back and look at like their follow account and the interactions and stuff, they are a big organization. So the fact that they are considering getting into Overwatch, like 750,000 followers, is pretty strong. Yeah. Yeah. So that coupled with a few other APAC announcements and the recent showing by teams like DAF in the what even was that?
The Pacific Showdown.
Pacific Showdown. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, like it could be a big year for APAC. I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops.
Oh, this is good. This is good. I mean, we've seen a bit of a rise here, just recently with the Pacific Showdown coming back. And the competitions that were supporting a lot of the teams in Southeast Asia, where we're getting to see teams from Thailand, teams from Japan compete. It's huge. It's so important for that region. And there's a lot of support for Overwatch and there's a lot of talented players out of that region. So no, this is amazing. And recently we've kind of gotten used to a bit of doom and gloom coming out of the APAC region. There has been a silver lining finally at the end of the storm clouds, where we're starting to see some daylight, and this is definitely a good piece of that. So, big news, worth highlighting. I forgot to change the lower third, but I'll be sure and change that for our next item.
It's fine. Well, I tell you what. The reason why I think this is so impactful, because of what's going on in China right now, like with the scene there in China that's kind of up in the air. I fully expect, this is just me making my take on it, I fully expect to see, instead of a Chinese contenders this spring, I think we might be getting Pacific contenders instead. And we might see some
interesting take.
Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen in China right now. So this is my personal thought on it, is I think that we're going to get Pacific contenders. We're going to see some Chinese teams actually play outside of their region. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. That's just my personal thought.
Oh, no, I think you're right. I would need to go back and dig out the specific tweets, but I'm fairly confident there was some mention of, if not contenders, like a contenders analog for that region. And I don't know if that is done with an eye to realizing that they may potentially lose a big chunk of their player base and need to start dredging up interest in other regions. But yeah, it really wouldn't surprise me to see something more competitive in those regions.
Yep. Moving right along then. Calling All Heroes Challengers Cup final did happen to go through. We saw one of our good friends, Thibbledork, be able to cast that along with Lemon Kiwi and Waffles. And Zoe and Mr. X also made their appearances there on the talent side. OWCRA Artemis came out on top. They took the $10,000 cash prize for first place. Dart Monkeys in second place. Timeless Ethereal was in third, and then OWCRA Polaris came up, rounding out the top four. I really enjoyed the entire tournament. I thought it was a fantastic ability to see these marginalized genders and marginalized communities part of our larger diaspora of Overwatch. And, being an LGBTQ member myself, I love to see the representation come through. Chat was a little bit weird at times, but for the most part, it was an extremely positive experience and something that we needed so bad. And I thought it was very well done. I thought the competition was fucking incredible. I'm not going to lie. I really was blown away by how well these teams played together. And we even had OWL teams, putting their brands on the back of them. So, I think it's a win-win for the community. I think it's a win-win for the tournament itself. Seeing more initiatives like this going forward definitely needs to be on Blizzard's radar as far as being able to highlight, the underrepresented parts of our community. Your thoughts, gentlemen, and Flutey.
I want to give a shout out to OWCRA because they have a long history of supporting marginalized genders. Like, in fact, I helped out with their teams like years ago, and with Farron, and I'm really proud of them for supporting these teams and like continuing that entering this, not just one team in this tournament, but multiple. And a special shout out to Dart Monkeys because they have Moving Fish 7 and I had a little Redbirds representation. So I'm obviously, a longstanding opponent in Timeless now. So I'm just really happy that it's becoming common and it's a lot of longer term connections that are doing well.
Yeah, I think one of the one of the goals that we have for this year coming up is we were very lucky to get to interview Farine and my ability to dredge names up when I want them is just terrible. And to Bailey as well, who, Bailey very heavily involved in the running of this, Farine very heavily involved in the winning team, and to do like a recap, because we spoke to them before Call All Heroes happened, like speak to them and get their opinion on how it went, what went well, what that's done for them as community members, as people involved in running teams and stuff. Paddington has reminded me that we also did speak to Eli as well, as part of our Themapalooza series, who was also involved in one of the teams for Calling All Heroes. So, I think it's been great to see specifically. It's been great to see everybody like profit from all of this, right? But great for the people that we've had chance to sort of get involved with on a community level, have this additional exposure and success. And I can't wait to get to talk to them again about how that was and what we've got to look forward to next.
It was awesome. I mean, there was a lot of collegiate players, on these teams. Like the teams were highly competitive. I mean, and it was OWCRA and Dart Monkeys were undefeated, basically going. I mean, hadn't dropped a single map except to each other. This is basically how that worked out. And OWCRA ended up with a flawless run. Artemis, in the designation for that specific team, a flawless run. And it was awesome to see. It was very entertaining, highly competitive. Loved it. Bun popped the F off. Like it was great. It was great.
There's a lot of international representation too. I know we've had a little bit of a stronger scene in NA and somewhat in EU, which I've noticed in some of the women in marginalized genders tournaments in the past. But just seeing like the diversity in this tournament was really great.
That's an interesting point. There was quite a few countries represented here. As you see, I mean. Not just the main three in a with Canada and Mexico, but Colombia, Cuba, Denmark, Germany. I mean, this open play-in from South Korea. That's a very good point. I hadn't even thought about that.
I just hope that some of these players get consideration for the World Cup.
Yeah,
he's hoping.
Yes.
Was that a transition? Did I do it? Did I do the thing?
That was
did.
So close.
It was really good. It was a really good transition. 5 line items too early.
Okay, I tried.
Let's just bump World Cup to now because that's too good. Like, let's just give it to her. That would mean you're up again.
Why you guys get paid the big bucks?
Wait, you guys get paid?
Oh shoot! I wasn't supposed to tell him.
Well, that brings me on the spot here, as my tab didn't want to open up. Oh, Overwatch World Cup's returning this year. We all heard it at the end of 2022, and I tell you what, I could not be happier. I loved seeing. I loved the national feel. It almost feels like a soccer World Cup, and having this come back once again, just brings back memories of Team USA beating Korea. And just seeing Jake losing his mind after winning is one of my core memories of Overwatch, and what really got me into the game even more than I already was this event. So 36 countries, they're going to have their regional stages. They're going to have their qualifying to be able to get in. I think that we're going to start seeing that here very shortly. ? Yes, they've got the community application, the committee for announcements. There's a whole list of things there on Blizzard's website about this, when we're going to start seeing this stuff come through, so I don't ramble on here about that. But I mean, trials are coming up next month. That's the big announcement that I'm looking forward to.
I think just an interesting note, it's not 36 countries, it's 36 countries and regions. So I think we may see some like the traditional conglomerate regions like Benelux, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg competing as a unit, and maybe some other like maybe some of the Eastern Bloc countries that traditionally work together. So I'd be interested to see how they manage that, because the rest of the world struggles a little bit to compete with South Korea and America. South Korea because of the level of infrastructure they have for this kind of thing, and America because y'all are huge and you've got millions of people to pick from, and a lot of smaller countries can't quite compete with that. Right. So yeah, some of the regional groupings will be interesting to see how they do that.
That being said, I'm still hoping to see some Redbird representation on the NA side. I'm really hoping that's a thing. So
Yeah,
See.
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
I think that's a pretty strong possibility.
I hope
so.
I hope that you have a chat with Grathen to talk to Ethan about getting on Team Ireland, because poor Ethan's been.
I didn't even start this.
Oh my God, Ocean's been looking for Grathen everywhere.
I found him. He's a Redbird now. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey,
Team Ireland, I got a guy for you.
Let's not jump the gun. We'll get to that. We were joking that he was out picking mushrooms with Snillo. That was kind of our running joke.
Oh boy. Is it back up to me then?
No, it is in fact back over to Jeff.
Oh, so it
Okay.
is. That leads us nicely into run it back. Sure. Segue. Yeah.
Segues happened. It was there and it happened.
Segue happened. Change my lower third. Good. Yes. All right, there we go. Run it back. So run it back happened. Our final contenders tournament concluded back in December. We know there's a lot of news items. We're going to quick hash through this. We could do a deep dive into any one of these regions. But just as a quick overview, I'm going to do NA last. I'm saving NA for last. I know you're chomping at the bit over there, Flutey. But Ground Zero Gaming coming out on top for Australia. They hadn't won in a while, if memory serves, like coming back to really claim one. After, who was it, Mind Freak, like just totally blew up their roster after winning Summer Series. Like they just blew up their roster. Ground Zero happy to fill the power vacuum. Congrats to them. China, flagship recreators, upsetting HLXC. Phil, you got to cast that match. That's pretty awesome.
I did. It was
Billy
pretty
and
fun.
I cast the winners final between those two teams where HLXC completely 3-0 swept. Flagship comes back and just dominates in the finals. It's good showing from those guys. South Korea, of course, the O2 Blast domination, where they conclude their third championship, and then we'll go on to win Gauntlet and complete the Grand Slam, as Avril has dubbed it. Arguably one of the best contenders teams to ever exist. So O2 Blast continuing to make waves. Europe, EXO just looked unstoppable throughout the entire series. I don't think they dropped a map, did they? Like EXO was so head and shoulders above everybody else, it was ridiculous.
It's because they are almost entirely ex-Overwatch League players. Things like Slay and Crandop are the only two that haven't been on an Overwatch League team.
Yeah, I mean, so are Team Peps, but like they fell short.
Well, yeah.
I had big hopes for Yab. I thought Yab had a killer roster. But I mean, EXO, yeah, they were just unstoppable. And then NA. And then NA, where Odyssey were the heavy favorites. Here is, I'm just going to put Flutey Big on screen for the reaction. Because Redbird comes in and absolutely stomps him in the finals after like the most legendary move we have seen in NA contenders. Of course, I am talking about the gig, like the call in the shot. Like that was just amazing. We'll delve more into this awesome strategy a little bit later on, but holy cow, that was a magical tournament with a huge flip from Redbirds to come through and suddenly just flip everything on its head. None of the casters had y'all picked to win it all. Like some didn't even have y'all in their top 4.
Run it back for a reason, you know?
Which was absurd. Yeah, y'all shut them up. Y'all absolutely shut them up. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, no, that was a wild ride. Do you want me to get into that now, or do you want me to save it?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Oh, sure, why not?
All right. Well, okay, so you guys, like, I think you guys think that we were counting for a while, but, like, if you think, like, B-sides, like, the final was close. Like, that was a banger. Like, so if you think, like, we were coming in, like, not expecting to, like, be competitive, like, you were watching that final. So, but also leading into that, we're noticing that we swapped Lethal and Vision there, too. We just did it much sooner in a much more predictable way. And like, you know, I'm just going to keep the narrative Gig said, like, you know, we just did it later because we don't have that given the college study time and the time we allot for finals and midterms and all that stuff, we're just going to do that switch to the last second and not give you the time to VOD review the crap out of it. So, and that proved to be a good strategy. So, and we knew from scrims that we were feeling strong. Like when Gig kind of like threw the Babe Ruth in the interview, I was like, I'm like, actually, it's kind of good this time. Like he's not messing with you.
That was
like
it was legendary.
We were kind of feeling it. Like the team was cooking, Actually, the vibes were good, and honestly, the synergy was great. And yeah, we knew we were feeling really good going into that.
Well, I mean, if we're just going to delve into this a little bit, what prompted the swap? Like you were talking about a little bit here before we went live. How did y'all come to the conclusion of swapping your DPS roles and getting Lethal on the hit scan?
I mean, it's just a simple tempo thing. Like Lethal likes to play fast and furious, but I think Gig's a little populated. And so is Vision. So the Vision Gig tempo matched a little bit more when they were on characters that play together, either the Reaper or in the other case, the other meta, the Genji, when they had it interact a little bit more and more coordinated, and then it allowed Lethal to kind of go make plays and more aggressively. Not that Vision wasn't doing that. It was just the tempo just matched better. And it's not about better or worse. It's just that was the more natural fit. And I think the team was kind of realizing that in both metas. And realized it was kind of Junker Queen meta all over again with the Reaper. It was the equivalent of the Genji. So and that was the entire thought process.
And y'all had heard that Odyssey had been very specifically dissecting y'all's VODs to find a weakness and try to find a way to beat y'all. And so it was very intentional to hold off on the strat until 3 days before the grand finals. Is that correct?
We did scrims that week on it. But we had discovered it like a few weeks prior.
Sure.
So yeah. And so once we were running it down leading into the end, we weren't trying to lose to Timeless. Let me put that out there. That wasn't intended.
Sure.
So, but it did kind of accelerate our plans a little bit. But yeah, no, that definitely was part of it. We felt really confident in that swap.
It was one of the coolest moments I've ever seen in Contenders. It was one of the coolest.
Well, and we also know we have less time to kind of review and dissect them, and we knew they had more time to dissect them. So that's part of it.
Sure. Awesome. Yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit more after we get through our news. That's it.
Yeah. Next up, a slightly sad news item, which is those of you that have been following O2 Blast for a little while will hopefully be familiar with their longtime coach, a coach who, for the past 2 years, I've looked at all the Overwatch League pickups and gone, how has nobody picked up O2 Blast boss yet? Unfortunately, due for health issues, he's actually stepping down from O2 Blast for at least a little while, at least according to the automatic translation, which is famously not great for Korean. Oh, we actually did get there we go. Look at that. Yeah, just very unfortunate. Has some health problems. Hopefully, it's not too long, and then he'll be back to guiding O2 Blast back to another victory whenever we get another tournament.
Been with O2 for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts. I can't think of a single person that has been with the same org for 5 years, and this includes OWL. Is there anybody who has stuck with one OWL team for 5 years?
I believe Nuki has been with Spitfire since Jump.
I don't think she was Spitfire at first. I think she was still just BH originally.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think so. If memory serves right, I think she was still just BH when...
I think you're right.
That was a later swap.
Yeah.
Roston U at Philly?
That's a good shout. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, there
really aren't many
dig
of
deep.
them.
Yeah, you got to really dig deep. So
Disro raises a good point in chat. Carpe.
Fair enough. Okay, I was thinking more back of house, but Carpe is a great shout. Good. All right, Distro, you're 100% right. 100% right. But we talked about one of the strongest Contenders teams across all regions. I mean, this is a big loss. So hopefully, Coach Jin, as he's referred to here in the statement, can get well soon, and we'll see them back in the scene. But this one's definitely sad.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Where does that leave us? Is this? Yep, that's what I thought. It's my turn. So we've got Esports has disbanded, or at least dropped the entirety of their roster. And kind of funny going from 02 to 01. I guess we're kind of counting down here.
Yeah. Hadn't thought about that.
Me either. As I type in our lower third, drops entire. That's how you spell roster. And this has just been a squad that has I mean, they've been around the EU scene for quite a while. Yezin is one of the most notable players in the EU scene and has been on 0-1 on, I think, a couple of their rosters bouncing around. But
this is a different roster that won Saudi leagues just in mid-December, though, right?
They run a couple of different rosters. I think there was even like a bit of
That's right.
a bit of confusion as to which roster was supposed to be competing in which tournament, because they were doing contenders and Saudi E-leagues like with games on the same days. But as far as we can tell, both rosters have been dropped. It was just that was the most relevant tweet we could find.
Yeah, and if we go back to... So I had their results pulled up just to kind of show how strong this squad really is. I mean, that's a lot of gold going down their Wikipedia page. I mean, it runs the gamut. I mean, it includes, both contenders tournaments as well as Saudi E-leagues, where they've always been strong. But if we go back to overview, they only have 2 people listed on their active squad. Neither I'm very familiar with. So... They still exist.
Yeah,
they didn't just ban the organization entirely. They just dropped all of their rosters.
Yeah, I wonder if GARA and P1 Silence are actually like back of house staff, because if you look at when they joined, it was 2017, which feels like a little bit of a weird. Yeah,
it was 2020. It was on 11/17.
Oh, I just completely misread that. So yeah. I'm going to say living in America has messed with my concept of date formats.
I mean, but they are original founding members. Like, there's not even a 2020 tab. Okay, wait, there's a 2020 tab. There you go.
There we go.
It was founded on October 13th of 2020, and P1 Silence and GARA joined on November 17th. So, I mean, they are founding people of this org for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so sad to see another squad, down and out. Hopefully those players will find homes before the 2023 contender season starts back up.
Fingers crossed.
Or Saudi E-leagues, for that matter.
Yep. Moving right along. OWCRA rankings. We do have the finality of the fall semester collegiate rankings for the collegiate Overwatch scene, done by our friends over at OWCRA. Redbirds on top, and they were not always on top. But the end of the fall split there really solidified them as our number 1 teams. Northwood, Fisher, UC Irvine, and UT Dallas rounding out the top 5. Lots of good teams on here. Looking forward towards the spring split for 2023. And are we allowed to talk about that, Phil?
Sorry, we're allowed to talk about what the rankings?
No.
I think I misunderstood your question, Billy.
Well, I will just not say it then.
Any doubt? Let's move on.
Yep, moving on.
Well, hold on. Let's move on in a different way though, because I do want to talk about a couple of these teams. Converse, for one, shot up the rankings over the course of the fall semester, looking really good, and now they have finally gotten their DPS player in. So Grathen, who's owner of UGA, is their actual DPS player. They were waiting on him to show up for the entirety of the fall semester. Waddy was talking to me about this, early in fall, and that they were just scrambling to make anything work with, only 1 DPS player on their roster, and they still managed to move up 5 or 6 slots in the OWCRA ratings without having their complete roster. So this is a team I expect to continue to be competitive, and I look forward to see what they bring for us in 2023.
Yeah, I've now gotten to the bottom of what Billy was trying to communicate to me. Now is being too dense to pick up. I was a member of the Overwatch Collegiate Ranking Association for its first, up until that ranking came out. Wasn't able to give it the time and attention it needed. So I am no longer a member of the Overwatch Collegiate Ranking Association. I still think it's a very worthwhile project, but I will say that sometimes the rate at which teams swap out rosters does make it very difficult. Things can really turn on a dime, and suddenly a team you had ranked 20th is maybe in consideration for top 10.
Flutey, do you have any thoughts on this as a whole, coming from this perspective of one of the schools? What are your thoughts on the accuracy of this, the importance of this?
And I want to note I'm on the committee as well. And I think I have some disagreements with how the list came out, but also some empathy, because like there's a lot of us that knew about like the Maryville roster going into next semester, but we were trying to stay true to like the playoff teams from last semester, so we kept that true to that. And I think that was kind of like a semi agreement. I'm not sure. I know I rated that way knowing Maryville would have a new roster. There's some schools I would rate. I did rate a little differently, but I actually love the importance of this. I think there were other coaches polls, but they were very skewed. Either some schools that maybe weren't in the thick of like higher tier scrims, or weren't maybe in the variety of tournaments. Like I know we were in NECC, NAC, like we were in Blizzard, we were doing all the things. So like I feel like we did have a good look at like how people played. And some of these schools also had, that same view.
Sure.
So yeah, I think this is some of the more accurate rankings. They're never gonna be perfect. I think tier lists, ranking lists are always like gonna be a little memey, but I think this is one of the better ones.
Now, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Jeff, maybe an important point. I actually would like to get Dividing, who a friend of ours sometimes hosts the podcast. This is his initiative. I would like to get Dividing on specifically to do an episode about the Overwatch Collegiate Ranking Association, but it's an idea that is taken from, I believe, college football. Apologies, I'm not much of a sports guy, particularly US sports. In theory, even if we have wild disagreements, say if my list is completely flipped to Flutey's and I've got Redbirds at the bottom because I'm a moron, with the number of people that are in the association, all of that should average out, and actually the best team should still be ranked at the top. Doesn't always quite work out like that, but it's a pretty good indicator. If you would like to get yourself very angry, go and look at the quote retweet. Go look at the quote retweets of any time there's a ranking published and see the number of people angry that their team isn't number one in the listings, or that they feel they've been placed incorrectly. That's always fun.
How many?
There's some gems in there though. Like I have to admit, like I feel like UCI came out the gate. They were doing great. Like I'm so happy to see them. Like I feel like maybe I would even put them higher. Maybe that's my opinion. But like there were other teams lowered on this, like Bryan and Stratton. Like we had a random game against them, and I was kind of impressed with like some of their players.
Yeah.
And just some kind of even UC San Diego. I think that is Frosted team. Like they surprised a lot of people. Like Ohio State wasn't on anybody's list at the start, and I knew that was like Lava's team. Like, and I knew they were going to come out the gate be really good. I just feel like I'm glad to see them on the list now. And I think we ended up with a good list. I know there's going to be some differences next semester because of some roster information, which is
sure.
So, but I'm excited to see everybody do their rankings.
I have two
Best
questions.
of luck.
Best of luck.
How many people are on the committee? Just to give an overview for anybody out there who's not familiar with this ranking system, how many people are on the committee that give their votes in on this?
Just counting.
I thought it was 20, but I'm not sure. How many is
That's
it?
considerable.
Currently in the online list in the Discord, I can see 14 people, but there are more than 14, I think.
That's considerable.
I think he's taking applications for others as well. So.
And then my next question is, can we expect, you may not know the answer to this, can we expect another ranking going into spring? Like to reflect,
the Dividing.
To reflect the new rosters. All right, Dividing, looking at you. All right. I think we've delved into that deep enough.
That's enough on that one.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, another announcement of a tournament. I seem to have got all of the tournament announcements this week, which is fine by me. Anarchy, a French caster, is setting up the European Invitational. And this is going to be a massive event with a huge cash prize. I believe eventually, played at the Grand Rex in Paris for the finals and the semifinals. And this is being done almost like a little mini World Cup, is my understanding, in that it is you apply for the captaincy for your country, and then you establish a team. There we go, up on screen now. Make a team based of players in your region and play for this €10,000 cash prize, which is, for a tournament like this, is crazy. I have no idea how Anarchy pulled that together, but I'm very excited to see how that all comes out.
And LAN as well, or at least the final tournament.
Yeah.
So I am in the Discord for that, because as soon as I saw that, I put my name forward as a caster for that, because I mean, first of all, it's in Paris. I've actually been to the Grand Rex. Personally, I've been there back in the day when it wasn't an esports arena, because this was back in the early 90s. But we had a tour there when I was in my teens. So I joined this because I saw the announcement go up, and I mean the hype video for it will give you chills. If you have not watched the actual hype video for this, it will give you the chills up and down. You'll see a lot of ex-Overwatch player or current and ex-Overwatch players in it. But yeah, they are looking at, basically the same kind of format. It's just a European scene. They're going to allow the CIS countries, the former Commonwealth and independent states like Russia, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia. They're going to try and maybe put together a CIS team because of availability of players over there. They're doing a Benelux once again there for the Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. But as far as like the UK or like England and Germany and France and Spain, they're having qualifiers to get the best team. Like there are people saying, oh, well, can I play? Can we have more than one team, or can we have this or that? You have to be from the country that you are competing with, that you have to have residency there. And like I said, this is going to be, I mean, I think you nailed it on the head. Mini World Cup, at least a Euros would be a better way to describe it. Anarchy is one of my favorite French casters. Him and Hammerkick are two of my favorite casters out of the Casters Nest org that do a lot of the French broadcasts, not only for Contenders but also for OWL. And looking at how they've set this up, I mean, they've got the qualifiers coming up. They've got 8 invited teams that won't have to go through that. And then we'll see that, we'll see the initial competition go through. And then in March, we'll see the actual on stage at the Grand Rex competition. That's what I'm looking forward to. This is going to be a fantastic event. Like I said, I'm in the Discord because I speak French, and well, yeah, it's going to be a fun time for everybody.
Can't argue that. Wish I could go.
Never say never, Jeff.
Passport.
Never say never.
Get your passport.
Fair enough. You know what? Got to prep for success, right? Like,
get your passport. You need your passport.
They're prepared. At least that's what the movie The Incredibles taught me.
Many a life lesson from the movie The Incredibles.
I have an autographed copy of that from 2 of the animation supervisors. But anyway.
Yeah.
Wow. Moving on. That was from a previous life. Back when I was an animator. But yes, okay, so we do have now with that land coming up, we have a land that just happened over the weekend. Of course, talking about the English Invitational 5 that happened up in Chicago. And this was a great event. It's here, let me pull up the bracket here. Lower third.
Oh, look at that.
Lower third stuff. Yep. Oh, can't imagine who won this one. Yeah. But hey, I will say, I mean, it was close. Like it was close.
It was close.
It was down to map 5.
It was a big Ramatra like showcase.
Yes, it was.
I really love that about this. And of course, like we had our friends and some friends from Timeless and some from like you would have seen in the Calling All Champions, on the other team. So I'm obviously throughout a lot of these teams. So I'm really happy with this. Obviously, I'm a Chicago native, and like, obviously we're trying to rep Illinois. We can't like not show up to this one. So, and they give us a run. We're not always the best first thing in the morning. So we ran it back as we tend to do. And then we showed up in the finals, and always had a good match with our friends on the other team. Yeah. But like I said, it was a good Ramatra showcase, and I think you're gonna get like some glimpses of like what's possible with that character.
And it was Timeless again to put you in the lower bracket. It's
hey, we're nothing if not consistent.
True. Those weren't the only 2 exciting rosters though. Like there was some really cool stuff. Ojin Regent roster was a lot of fun to watch.
Those are my friends over there. Yeah, that's the old Castaways crew.
Yeah, the Crimson and Ship tank line. Yeah, Boat and Chopper. We're casting these guys. We were talking about this before we went live. Now, tell us your connection with the squad, because I think it's fascinating what a small world this community truly is.
I'll even say it goes as back. We were even talking. I had a connection with Phil back in Owlet, like in 2018.
Yeah.
But I moved on to other teams as a player after that. And I was on like not Nocturnal, and then Castaways with like Ship and Chopper, and even I think Nocturnal had Camino. I don't know, but like we just like I've been interacting with a lot of these players for a long time, and obviously the Castaways crew. Like once you're on the Castaways crew, you're always there, and our sister team, I think, was Team 2, which had Crimson. So like they will, that became like attack mode, became drifters. So like I'm always like supporting those guys and happy they're doing well. So obviously I was the owner of Overwatch of Region actually is somebody I worked with in US Army Esports too. So a lot of connection with that team. I'm happy they did well there.
It is a small world indeed.
Yeah, we have a comment from Pad in chat to say another Owler. Oh my god! Which again, it is like 80% of the guests we have on here.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get every other guest. I've gone over this at the start of like, oh, I know this person from Owlet, but I was talking on Twitter about, I wonder what's going to happen with this player on Redbirds, and Flutey drops into my DMs and say, oh, this is what's happening. I scroll up one message, and it's me and Flutey trying to organize coming to observe some scrims.
I was scouting
when
a
we're
little
in
bit.
Outlet. Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Furious Unicorn season 2. We might have won.
You almost certainly beat us because we only won one game, I think. So Paddington, the person that was, it's my fault. It's my fault entirely. I'm a terrible coach and a terrible human.
They loved you though. Like I remember that they freaking loved
I built
you.
a team of people that I liked and who, with maybe one exception, liked each other to the point where some of us are still friends. Like Pad came round to my house for Thanksgiving this year, so yeah, it's all cool. I feel like I did a good thing, even if I wasn't a very good coach.
That was like so Pokitude was a main support on my Unicorn team.
Yeah.
He ended up being a contenders coach for Drifters, who we were just talking about. So.
I had a bit of a lag spike there, but I think the message
got
across.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, sorry. I'm gonna do a little camera refresh here. While I'm doing that, it seems like as good a time as any to segue into our final topic, which has to do with a bit of an addition to the Redbirds roster. We had news leaked, well, a tweet, not leaked, but a tweet went up moments before podcast went live. Flutey, why don't you take this one? Who are we seeing on the Redbirds roster next semester?
Yeah, we're really excited to add Grathen. He was a member of the 2021 Falcons roster, 4-time contenders champion. So we're excited to add him to the crew. Great student, really excited to come to ISU. He's excited about the school and has already moved in. So we're really pumped to have him. I think he's going to be a great fit. And we're looking to kind of keep on trucking.
I do think it's a very funny bit of a peel back behind the curtain here. Ocean, who, as we said, is currently on holiday in Prague, trying to pull something together for a team island for Overwatch World Cup, has been panicking about, like, where's Grathen? We need Grathen. Has anybody seen Grathen? Turn over every rock you've got. Where is Grathen? And Grathen was just been so busy with Redbird stuff that he couldn't respond.
I kept him a little busy. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I think it's very funny.
Moving to the States, I mean, that'll take up some time. Well, look forward to seeing that roster and looking forward to delving this interview. Unless we have any closing thoughts on news, I say we drive this thing forward.
One last thing. The Cloud Charity Invitational. We did lose a member of our community tragically at the beginning of December, and BPL, Bad Pachymari League, put on a fundraiser to help the family with the funeral services for young Brandon. And we don't know what the actual totals were at the end, because all of the proceeds that were raised went directly to the church. But I do know that there was a lot of donating going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a very fitting way to send off one of the young lights in our community. It was a Hanzo required. Hanzo had to be on every single composition, so we did see a lot of the archer out there to pay tribute to his signature character. And man, I mean, the community support from that was absolutely bonkers, and I just wanted to thank them and it was a fitting way to say goodbye to Cloud.
Yeah, very well put, Billy. Thank you. We'd very bad of us to have missed that out of the runner show.
Yeah.
Which leaves me with the unenviable task of transitioning out of that into talking to our guest for today.
Yeah.
So, Flutey, we've kind of done the introduction portion of this, but for those watching who don't know who you are, what's your title? What's your role currently? And explain a little bit as to who you are.
I'm the Overwatch coach for Redbird Esports at Illinois State University. It's my alma mater. I've been working with them for, since before they were in varsity, since when they had a club teams. And I think it was 2020, late 2018, something like that. So I've been working with them for a while and been trying to just stay with them as they grow.
Great. So you said that your alma mater, so my guess is there was obviously your time at ISU and then a gap and then your time back here. So what did you do before you were involved in a professional level with ISU?
I'm so I obviously got my degree in music education, K through 12. And then my master's in music performance, and I was a professional flutist. Huh. So and I had a great career, and and like I said, just working with the team, and I'm happy to give back to the school. Like they did some great things for me when I was a student. Actually had some like family things go on when I was there. I had faculty, I had staff like come to support me and facilitate that. And so I actually feel a strong connection to the school to help other students in that regard, and actually support the school because I do believe in it academically and just in their mission. And I just believe in what they're doing.
I think that's amazing. Because it's not just, obviously, Redbirds has become a household name as far as in a collegiate and T2 and contenders. But, you were there, like that has no bearing on why you're there or what drew you there in the first place. Like, I don't know. I think that's a really, really cool piece of information. I also think it was really cool. You're talking about you were like winning competitions playing flute. Like you weren't just like, oh yeah. I mean, you say it like, yeah, I play a little flute. Like you were like winning national competition. Yeah, exactly. Like let's put some respect on that.
I'm pretty good. Yeah. Like I thought I was gonna be a band director, but I was also doing, any good teacher, also has to be able to like do the thing. And so I was doing the thing, and then it was going so well, I kept doing the thing. And maybe I'll go back to teaching, but I was doing pretty well. I was winning competitions and through the National Flute Association and other regional ones. And like I said, I went and got my master's, and I won my first professional audition out the gate. So and it was like my dream job. So that was great. And now I'm here with Redbirds. So happy to pay back.
Now,
Flutey, is it too much to ask? Is it too much putting you on the spot? Do you have a flute nearby? Could you give us a demonstration?
Oh
no! This is completely unplanned. Phil, you're taking it off the rails. I just want to point that out right now. I would just like to point out to everybody out there, this is Phil's doing. He's the one taking us off the rails. All right, you remember that, friends.
All right, I'll tell you what. If you give me a link of any sheet music, I'll play it.
Oh,
anything you want. I'll sight read it. If there's anybody watching, they want to link it, I got you. Okay. There you go. Yeah, that's the deal.
It's chat. It's somebody from chat. I don't know who.
There you go. I'll sight read.
Do we have anybody?
Conversely, if we don't get anything good, I'll give you something to link afterwards.
Okay.
All right. So
someone else is gonna have to take this because I'm furiously looking at sheet music now.
Okay. All right. I'll let you.
Maybe we link it afterwards. Of course, I have a flute nearby.
Sure.
Oh no! We're doing this. We're doing this live. We're doing this live. Like Phil, you go do the thing. You go do the thing. I'll carry forward.
Right, we'll do. I'll play along. It's fine.
Okay. So this I actually have a decent segue here. We'll call it a 7 out of 10 segue. So how do we go from playing flute and wanting to get into it to being a band director and in that world to getting into coaching Overwatch? What got you into Overwatch and esports as a whole?
I think that there's a strong correlation with, when I'm going to get into it. So one of my favorite books of all time is The Art of Learning. And it's by Josh Waitzkin. He's a chess champion. He was also a Tai Chi push hands champion and a jiu-jitsu black belt, which obviously is near and dear to my heart. I'm like a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, so like I got to roll with it. I actually got to roll with this guy, like, and so have a conversation. But the premise of the book is that once you learn anything, once you get good at any one thing, you can apply that skill of learning to the next thing. And so that applies particularly to collegiate. So you can be pursuing your major and getting good at that, or even maybe it was gaming first, but take what you've learned on how to learn and how to practice there and apply it to school, or vice versa. Maybe you were good at math. Okay, now I can say, okay, I need to break this apart and practice this way. For me, that was music, and that transitioned very easily to esports. It, obviously jiu-jitsu is my other hobby, but like it transitioned from hobby to hobby. I crochet, like making a nice scarf, but like, I feel like that art of learning is like the crux of it all. Highly recommend that book. And it always talks about this like beginner's mindset and how you approach any given thing. And also performance anxiety, fear of failure, all that stuff all applies from one art to the other. And it definitely resonates with me.
So how did you apply that specifically coming into the esports? How did you apply your previous learning and your previous experience to come in and create an extremely successful, leading the charge collegiate Overwatch program?
So like I want to point to our first iteration of the team, and it was actually just the people mostly people just at the school at the time. It was like the club version, and nobody was looking at us, and we ended up top 20 in the country. And that was just with the people attending the school. And we did that through the last chance qualifier. And that might have been the ultimate, like, hey, we're going to take what we have. And we focused each week. We're working on this one thing, working on this next thing. And we talk about it, hey, we slipped off on that thing from 2 weeks ago. Let's bring it back. And a lot of spiral learning. And I think those are all things I know for me, I learned from music. And I very intentionally was applying to esports, and was a very natural transition. Why esports? I don't think you get really good at anything without a little bit of an addicted personality. And I think they both attract a little bit of an addicted personality. I definitely qualify in that realm. But so that's why I'd say like I showed up to that realm, but also how I approach it, and that all came from music, and not only just practice and preparation, but even game day, performing game day, and like either anxiety or like, some teams just show up, and like some players show up and they're just so good on performance on game day. Other people have to practice and be that person leading up into it, and kind of knowing who you're working with and helping people realize who they are, like, and where they're going to perform their best is again all stuff I learned from other arts. And it resonates with me particularly for esports.
It sounds like an amazing challenge, especially when you're talking about trying to identify strengths. Yes, thank you, Bo agrees. We're talking about applying strengths and finding individual strengths in people, and then knowing how to apply that to the whole to make the sum greater than the end goal greater than the sum of its parts. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, the sum is greater than the parts for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've always thought of casting reminds me of performing. I didn't play music to the level you were talking about, but I played in rock bands and played out of my garage and went and played at local clubs and did all that. I had a little bit of actual schooling in music, but the majority of the time was just playing on a drum set and in stupid rock bands. But casting reminds me of that same feeling of being on stage, and you have that performance day and you take all the rehearsals and apply it. So it's interesting to hear you say that applies to the players as well and competing as well.
There's actually one, I'm going to do another book drop. I can't help it. It's like, golf is not a game of perfect. And it's one of those, okay, take this one. Cause like this one applies to like, I don't even play golf, but like, it's one of those, in Overwatch where like, hey, somebody did something dumb and you just get so focused on that dumb thing that just happened. And then it all kind of goes to poop and then you lose the whole game. Like, and we've all been in those ranked games. We've even been in those competitive games, but like, that's just like another one of those like books. And oh yeah, I know, I've totally been that person. Or I might have been the person making the bad play, and then everybody throws because they're like they've had enough of it. But we won't talk about that. But it's about like not letting the last, like the hole that you like we're playing, affect the next one. Complete reset, next play, next push. What's the best? How do you win this fight given XYZ ults, and situation and positioning?
Yeah.
And it's kind of completely applicable from sports to music to esports. It's all the same. It's all the same thing.
You said that was called Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. Was the name of that book?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the one. Highly recommend.
Yeah, we'll have links.
I love these books. I'm sorry. I'm
going to put links in the description to these books. I love it. I've got a list going already. So if you want to drop more, I'm ready for you.
Oh, okay. I can't. I don't even know what I'll say next.
It'll be organic. We'll keep it organic. Anything else comes to you, don't worry. I got you covered. I think we had some sheet music. Should we take a pause from the interview here?
Oh my God, no.
No?
Phil has been
I'm being mean. One of them is physically unplayable, but if you read music, it's incredibly funny to read.
I can't do that. Okay. That's actually really funny. You have to put that on screen so you know that it's actually a meme.
Yeah. I looked at it and I got like
fairies air and death waltz is a thing people who read music show to each other to
All right, hold on.
Like my fingers, like the old Bugs Bunny cartoon where he makes people kind of fiddle around and gets their hands tied. That's what I can imagine just from that piece of music.
Emphasis on the death part.
Yes.
Okay, can you explain why this is like a meme to musicians? Because it just like I read music and it's still just like, is it just drawing images? Is that what's going on here?
It's fast.
No, it's just nonsense for the most part. Like it's based on a Cro-Magnon skinning chant. There's an instruction here to call timpani with a small fan. Saxes move down. Like it's just gibberish. I was being funny. I didn't think this would actually make it on stream.
I'm so happy.
Saxes more downstage.
Squiggles just for no reason.
I
think we should go with pads because it's.
I think we should go with pads as well. I want to highlight this little section. You can't see my cursor on screen. Like kind of the lower right hand side where it's a lot of gobbledygook and it says light and airy. That is my favorite part.
Wait, that's actually a serious remark. I've seen that for real though. Like they're like, be light and airy. I'm like, yeah, I'll just line that up. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay. No, let's go with pads. I think that's apropos. You happen to have that pulled up, Flutey? It should be in the live channel. There is it's a PDF from Paddington that got posted. It's at 7:43. I think that would be an excellent.
Is that what I'm looking?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that would be apropos.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Let me see what we got here. Coordinator equals 36. That's very slow. All right, we're doing it. You guys get a special.
I love it.
My team tries to get me to. They don't even get it. I'm gonna start a little bit in because it doesn't matter otherwise.
Sure. Oh.
I think we're having some mic difficulties.
Yeah, the noise gate.
Sorry.
I think the noise
gate
is screwing us.
Yeah, I actually, when I've done that before, I've had to turn off the noise, which I could, but I hope, did you get any of that?
Yes,
we did. Thank you.
Okay.
I apologize for derailing us, and thank you for indulging me.
You got a little baby sample.
That's amazing. I can't believe you actually just played the flute on our podcast.
I love it.
Like,
it didn't take much. You didn't have to like twist my arm or anything. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll do it.
Oh,
I just
go on then. Unzips flute case.
Hey, I do Zoom lessons. Of course I have my flute here.
Yeah.
I think we just peaked as a podcast. Like it's just downhill from here.
Jeff, it's been downhill for a while.
Oh
my word. All right.
All right.
Back on the rails.
Yep. I guess we better get back on the rails here. Where were we? As I pull up the run of show. All right. So, okay. No. This is good. So we kind of talked about applying your previous experience into Overwatch. But this is your first year as head coach. You got announced as head coach at the beginning of the year. What what changed? Like, what did you do differently this year? How did your role change? How did your, I mean, I suppose I should have asked what your previous responsibilities were, but let's keep it in the here and now. What changed this year with you becoming head coach? How did that affect your approach to the season?
So I've been the caretaker of like Redbird Overwatch for a while now. And I think the big question is like, but you guys have wheats. And I'm like, yes, sure do. First round draft pick, the second we got scholarships. And that's because we're not dumb. And so yeah, I think the two of us work really well together. And we both have, like I'm going to fill any strengths that like if out of his bandwidth or like that are out of the scope of that. I'm gonna use him to his fullest capability. And so like a lot of my focus shifted less to player development and to recruitment and player, like obviously student development, which is a different thing. And so I think that kind of shapes a little bit, but there are instances I'd say like, we've always worked well together. We do have some good cop, bad cop moments, it's good. So, but yeah, I think, my role is particularly to fill the gap between the players and the students and the staff like David Kirk and Jack Blacknick, and who are just amazing, like literally phenomenal at what they're doing as director and assistant director. Just I couldn't be more excited and impressed with how they handle themselves. And I'm just kind of that middle level where making Overwatch work and keeping it running with them. So
I think it's an interesting point and sort of a wider point with coaches in general that I think most people don't understand what it is that a head coach does. Like, we were actually talking about this before broadcast and talking about the fact that, like, famously, Krusty of the San Francisco Shock is a platinum player. Like, he's not a high rank player at all. He just understands the game and he understands how to manage people. And like, you look at people who maybe don't fit your expectation for a head coach. And it's like, no, it's about what other skills they bring. They're not going to go in and say to a player, oh no, you are moving your mouse incorrectly. Instead, move it like this. Like, they're not going to be like weird technical details. Head coach is like people management for the most part. And that is a much, much rarer skill set than being able to move a mouse in the right way.
Which is that too, to be honest. Like, honestly, like, you want to win. So, I mean, it's all of it.
What would you consider, you're talking about these different styles, what would you consider like your style of coaching? How do you approach your teams?
Okay, so I definitely want to lean back. So with this crew, it's a little different. Like, I'm definitely like, I'm overseeing a lot of different things. It's not just Overwatch, because it's Collegiate too, and it's about their academic experience. Back when it was a club team, it was very much strictly their Overwatch experience, and trying to develop them as players. It depends on the team and the scenario. Like, I've been coached on teams where it was like macro strategy. I've been in some scenarios I was doing only individual reviews. Other times I was, it just varies. It just depends on your dynamic, And like I said, we work with the people we have, and with this crew, like, we have a really good system. And I just think that's part of why we're successful.
Sounds like
so to say, what is my
process?
Yeah, just to really nail that down, I'm like, in my previous teams, it's very collaborative. And in this, it's like, what is needed, I'll do that. And what you need, I'll make sure you have that. And if that's, a complete breakdown of a map, or if it's, I need to recruit this player now, or you need to know when to register for classes, it is what it is, and whatever that is, I will make sure it happens.
That seems like as good a time as any. I'd love to talk about the recruitment process. I'm going a touch out of order here, but since you brought it up, I feel like it just feels natural, because that seems very daunting. And particularly, like, you seem to have such an incredible knack for it. You talk about getting wheats right out of the gate. Got the squad that was half American Tornado, half Dark Mode, which all of them ended up in Overwatch League. And then you still come back around this year, semester, however you want to phrase that, and managed to win basically everything you could. You end up winning the Overwatch Collegiate Championship. You end up winning Run It Back in contenders. How do you have such an incredible recruitment process and stay competitive time after time?
So I think there's two different ways to look at the answer to that question. One is philosophically, and the other is more practically on how we did it. And one is, I'd say philosophically, I truly believe the collegiate model creates longer term teams as opposed to the player run, player swap, change it up every time, player swap that would ever happen in tier 2. And never really, and I think that's why NA Talent fell behind a little bit, to be honest. You can see that like AT, they stayed together for that long and they reap the benefits. And I think collegiate naturally, inherently keeps teams together longer. And to enter those teams in Path to Pro, I just think philosophically is going to create stronger teams. And you can even see we try to keep the team together through all of a series of contenders through the year, and we did better every time and learn from each one. On how to recruit, I'd say there were two different ways. One is targeted, and the other one is people requesting. Like I'd say we have two really good examples of that. Like Renko, for example, he was like filling out, hey, we're doing tryouts. He'd fill it out and he'd show up on the tryout days and was like playing amazingly. And it was like, particularly in scrims, we'd scrim against him. And I went on his POV and I'm like, this kid's great.
When he was scrimming against your squad.
Right. And he had already been in our tryouts too. Like, and it was just, he was persistent. So I think sometimes it's just like, you want in on the scene, you show up and you just knock on the door. Another example is Vision. I think I came across a Twitter post of his. He had like 100 Twitter follows at the time. And it was just a YouTube video, a highlight video. I'm like, wait, this is pretty cracked. And then I went back and watched contender VODs and I was like, wait, this is also pretty cracked. And then I started asking like Wheats in the crew, and I'm like, what about Vision? And they're like, wait, we know him from ranked. He's great. And and I don't think anybody was really recruiting him at the time, which is crazy to me. But like, so I think there's two different kinds: targeted and people knocking on the door. I'm very high, and both of those there was effort. Like Vision was putting himself out there on social media, so I'd highly recommend get yourself out there, ask questions. Reach out to me or whoever, I redirected people to other schools too, always want everybody to find a home. Mm-hmm. Lastly, I'd say keep maybe some of the bad stuff off your social media. Like there's some people I'd say like admitting to like cheating in school. And I'm like, I don't think we're going to be a good fit, and like, maybe don't put that out there. And maybe, instead of looking like a tough guy, like be a pro, and like put your highlight videos out there, have a professional like social media presence, and like, you'll get noticed.
I would like to clarify. I'm just going to say don't cheat. Like, just don't do that.
Yeah, that too.
Don't do that.
But at the very least, don't put it on social media.
Yeah, I'm not saying cheat and hide it. I'm saying don't do that. Like,
I'm adding a little lightheartedness, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't express that well. But yeah,
I'm being an ass. Forgive me.
I've got a question here, and it's not on anything that I prepped you with or anything like that, but it's something that I've thought about.
Oh God!
As we're going through this conversation, is there actually a ruling body for academic or game infractions? Or is there a recruiting? Are there rules behind the recruiting, like you see in the NCAA?
No, it's tournament organized by tournament organizers only. So
okay.
Yep. So the answer is no.
Okay, that answers a lot of questions for me. That do you see that happening somewhere in the near future? As maybe coming under the guise, under the stern watch of the NCAA?
I'm a little scared of that. So I'm a little scared of. I think we'd run into some Title IX issues to start, and how that would transform esports just straight up. Two, I think there's some rules and some funding things and funding sources that might cause issues. So I'd be a little scared of it coming from athletics. As far as our own thing, I'm also worried about that because I worry about the people selected to be the governing bodies being also kind of the cause of some maybe the issues that we'd like to see rectified. So I think we're kind of in the rock and the hard place, and it really has to fall on the tournament organizers at the moment to set this.
Okay.
That's an interesting topic to delve into. I'm sure we could spend a lot of time on that one. If there was, just off the top of your head, you're talking about problems to rectify. What is there something that stands out to you? Is there something on the forefront that you want to talk about here?
Not particularly. I just think, obviously a lot of programs would have stuff like, it's different for every program and how they compare their program to another. I definitely have a vision for what collegiate esports looks like in the context of tier 2 and where I'd like to see that go, and improvements I'd like to see there. In terms of like specifically in regards to NCAA stuff, I'm not too sure. I think each school would have their own opinion.
Fair.
I think love to delve into that topic at another time, though.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point to segue across, though, because in a number of ways, for me at least, as a viewer of contenders, ISU Redbirds are the first team that showed the viability of the collegiate space in a wider context, right? Because whilst we had teams like Saints competing, the Maryville brand for contenders as Saints, it wasn't really until Redbirds came along and just smashed that season of contenders that people were like, oh, actually, collegiate is maybe a thing that is worth looking at. And I wondered, more specifically, like you were talking about then, the interaction between collegiate and path to pro, like how you see those two things living alongside each other.
So I think that there's two aspects to look at. One is what do pro players do maybe when they're done and then it's over and like they never get a college education, for one. Or two, maybe people are working on going pro and what are they doing in the meantime? And so like that's one side of it. And then the other side, I think, is just the funding of tier 2. So we can look at it there. Obviously, the first half is like totally like it's beneficial to players on every side. The funding of tier 2, we've had a funding issue. Like we don't have a lot of orgs supporting the players financially, and it's coming purely from prize money. So the only additional money, I think, that besides like third-party tournaments, like one of the best sources of money is scholarships. And so if we say, hey, you can go to college, it's just so synergistic. You can go to college, get money to do that, and it props up like your tier 2 team. Like that just makes so much sense to me. And I think the future of tier 2 really is tied to collegiate and the health of it. If I had one mark of improvement, it would that if we truly believed in it being a path to pro, Overwatch League wouldn't start till the end of the school year and would end in December or before either that, or like at BlizzCon or whatever. But so that it aligned for the students, for the players. Like honestly, less about us. Like it's putting them to choices that I don't think they should have to be put to. And between their education, their scholarships, maybe I'll go out, I just think we could do a little bit better. We recognize the synergy, and that's something I've tried to prove with Redbirds, that synergy can and should exist between collegiate and tier 2, that the actual overall timeline and Blizzard's timeline and how they do everything will align with the idea of a more holistic view for the students.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd never heard that expressed, but now that you've highlighted it, that does make so much sense. It's particularly if collegiate is going to be this big a part of the ecosystem. Yeah.
Well, and it seems like they made the Overwatch League schedule based around NFL, did they not? Like it was like, because it originally like started in February and ran until September, and it was like perfectly placed to not be in the NFL season because they were originally trying to bring Overwatch League into the more mainstream. You have NFL owners that are participating here. I mean, we've got a couple of them, if I'm not mistaken. Robert Kraft's not the only one. It makes a lot more sense for the schedule to actually revolve around your own ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it would. Okay, for one, like you're talking about, you can have your students graduate or at least finish their year before, and then Overwatch League makes some choices based on recruitment or tryouts or whatnot. I mean, it feels like that can't be the only benefit. Like I feel like it would do so much to improve the system.
I imagine the viewership makes sense too. Like people come out of school and they're ready to watch some Overwatch. Like they just finished their school leagues and they're craving for some content. Like it just makes a lot of sense in my mind. I really hope that's adopted. But if they're listening, But
oh yeah, Sean Mills always in the chat here for the Map 5 podcast.
You know I'm talking to the right audience here.
Yes.
So
would you have that correlate with contenders as well if you had it your way? How would that Path to Pro system fit in with the scheduling in your mind?
I've actually seen a lot of improvement in that regard, and I've been very vocal in contenders, like if you're military after action reviews, so like their little meetings at the end of the seasons, hey, come in. I went to every single one, and I was like, please align this with the school year. Please align it. Make sense for students. It's all students. Okay, maybe not all, but like it's majority students, and and I'll say that like there's been a lot of improvement in that regard, and I am impressed. There is a lot of work to be done with some of the scheduling and how the schedule works. Maybe not 3 games on a school night, but the timing of the tournaments was better. So we're baby steps. We're definitely going the right direction. So I'm gonna give them credit there. And so I think they're listening, and anytime I message them, they are listening. That I doubt we'll see the same little scheduling snafus we saw in the last tournament again. Because I do believe that they're going to watch the complaints on that. But good. Yeah, so I think we are actually seeing improvement there.
Well, we had an item here just about specifically how your school and your squad kind of adapted, and especially with the release of the new game. I mean, it seemed a pretty tumultuous year across the board for Overwatch. How was that tough on your squad? How did Illinois State adapt? How did y'all kind of roll with the punches here with all of this newness that happened over the past 6 months, 4 months? I guess 6 months counting beta.
Yeah, about that. So we came out the gate out of the last school year straight into A-sides, right? In July. Yep. So and Liar took the summer off, which is totally fine. So we had some roster swaps, just kind of getting through the summer, trying to keep the squad together and keep the synergy, because we wanted to roll through that through Collegiate. We wanted to use that into even a Collegiate roster swap, and we brought on Lethal. So that was really I actually think summer was a little bit of a roller coaster, and so we came in through the gate straight into semester, and then we were in NACE, NECC, Blizzard, contenders. I think there was a week we had 14 matches or something.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was a lot, and that was all while trying to balance the school schedule, which we gave people time off for school. Anytime they were hey, this is a slow time, we're taking the time off, and we scale it back. Even they're wait, but we need to practice. I'm no, you don't. We need to hang back. And so there was a lot of it where it was being very careful to manage school, manage the rosters, manage the different tournaments. And like you said, we brought on Grathen just now. We're always working, we're always doing something. We got something in the cards. So to say we're ever slowed down or the transition Overwatch 2 is just well, we just dove right in. It's not a thing. We just been flying right through it.
Were there any specific struggles with the change in the format of the game? Because obviously, one of the things people think about when they think about Overwatch 1 is, tank synergy. It's all about tank synergy. Suddenly, you've got less room for that many people on the roster. How did that work for the team?
I think we had some off-tank struggles in spring semester, so it kind of worked out. So, React did a great job filling in, when we lost our off-tank. But, our core was actually still very synergized. So actually going into Overwatch 2, we felt really good. Honestly, we trusted in everybody's talent. And that's kind of a big thing is trust each other, make sure we're talking, we're doing that. And hey, somebody messed something up, but we're going to trust that they're just awesome. That's kind of what happened going in Overwatch 2. And, I think it was actually a very natural swap. And obviously we picked up Moving Fish 7, who's awesome and just fits in easily, but the 5-man, I actually feel we adjusted that quite easily.
I want to kind of shift a little bit because you were talking about it, you kind of touched on it, but the balance of academia versus competition. It seems like that it seems to be a common thread throughout ISU, and even I've got I've got one of y'all's tweets here I want to pull up. Bragging about a 3.2 average GPA across your varsity teams across all 3 titles of League, Overwatch, and Rocket League. Like, this is highly impressive. Tell us a little bit about what this means to you personally and to the school, and how do you balance those two?
One thing when I talk to prospective students and I just pulled it up so I don't say the wrong thing here. When we're talking, our ideal member and our student is very academic focused. Like Illinois State's, it's like U.S. News and World Report's 2022 rankings. We were number 112. It's a freaking good school.
This is out of thousands of schools.
Yeah, and it's graduation rate 67%, which is well above the national average. The retention rate's over 80%. And obviously, I'm a little biased. I went there and I had a great education.
Sure.
Our ideal student is going to be degree focused, regardless of whether they're aiming to go to Overwatch League or not. Our goal is that you don't have to choose. Have it both. Have it both ways. Have a great education while you're trying to go to Overwatch League. You don't have to go halfway. And that if that's your priority, then we're the right place for you. And if it's not your priority, then maybe we gotta talk. But we kind of want to have it all, and that's what we're kind of trying to show. Going to contenders with a collegiate team, coming in here with people doing well in school, adjusting. Yes, we're doing a lot of tournaments, but then we adjust our schedule anytime we can to allow for hey, go do homework, go do schoolwork, and we try to make sure everybody can manage that. So that's a high priority for us.
I mean, it seems like that balance would be very difficult. Is there any specific challenges or anything specific you do to kind of help the students to stay focused on their schoolwork? Because I imagine they just want to play, right? They're I don't want to do math. I just want to fucking play Overwatch. How do you keep on top of it?
We have a lot of things that we add. So we do have a dedicated esports academic advisor that can help the students out. We're also especially this semester, we're going to have sessions where we talk to all the varsity players. We have advisors there. We're going to have our staff there. We're going to do team training, just to make sure everybody feels really connected to this school and they're set up for success. On top of that, we have it's not only just staff there for them and training, but we have the arena, which is, I think my video is desync, but hopefully my audio is still good.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, I'll just refresh your camera and it should sync up the video. And here, actually, you know what? I'm going to pull up footage of that. This is a good opportunity because it'll make your camera small for me to pull up the footage of the esports arena, because this is just phenomenal.
It's a $6 million facility that got approved, and it just is flashy as something else. So I just love that we have that for them. And those little that area behind the glass, that's where they practice and that's where they play. Staff offices, the broadcasting, places for the club. I mean, this place is pretty cool. So I'm so happy they have that.
It looks amazing.
I don't want to derail, but I mean, Jeff, did you have to use that picture for me?
Sorry, somehow I clicked the wrong thing and turned on this. Sorry, no, I just had to sneak it in there. That was totally planned. Just had to sneak that one in there.
Yeah, this looks like a phenomenal space.
I want to come visit so bad.
It's all fun and games. Yeah.
Come on by.
Can we come visit, please?
I have actually been there. Yeah. I've actually been there. I got to meet Luke Mino. I got to meet Hydron when I was there. I got to meet Captain Kirk, David Kirk. And I mean, it's above the athletic center. So I mean, it's right in the heart of where all the students are. You go up the old place.
And this is a new one.
Yeah, I mean, I went up a flight of stairs, and I mean, the whole mega center was there. I was impressed at the time at that, and he was talking about building this new esports lab at that time, and I mean, he was just gushing about it. So I mean, Normal, Illinois, if you haven't been there, I highly recommend going and visiting the campus there. I actually fell in love with it because it was in the middle of fall, so the leaves were changing, and of course, it was all beautiful to me. But I mean, the facility, the team, everybody was very accommodating as well. Had a fantastic time there. I know I shared it with you guys when I went there, but yeah, I mean, definitely very impressed with the entirety of the ISU.
I want to add, you mentioned the leaves, like the actual main area of the campus, the quad, is an actual arboretum of all the indigenous trees of the state of Illinois. So it is actually extremely gorgeous. And there's over 20,000 students at the school. So like you get that big college vibe, you know, you get like all that student life stuff, people walking to classes, you know, on the benches, like you get that sort of vibe, which I think like only a school with that many students can really offer, because everybody adds to it. So
see if I can convince my wife that Bloomington, Illinois, is a place she wants to go visit while she's in the States, so we can we can come and visit.
Normal Illinois,
definitely.
Normal Illinois,
Hey,
normal Illinois,
normal Illinois,
as opposed to abnormal Illinois. Okay, sorry.
yeah, it depends on the day, you know.
Oh my. Oh, looks like my videos are just starting to kind of die all the way around. It may be a side to kind of start winding this down. Any final thoughts on Path to Pro, on Illinois State? Anything that you would like to get out there, Flutey, before we kind of wrap this up?
I'm just really excited to see particularly some of the public schools get in the scene. I think it's kind of a later addition, and I think, you know, it's kind of like the 1950s football, you know, it becomes big when they invest. And so I'm really excited for that to be the next evolution. Even it's that on top of any collegiate team getting it more involved in the Path to Pro and Tier 2 and making that more synergistic. I think that all that is the future for esports. So happy to see it happen.
Well, thank you so much.
Great. We'll be right along there with you for the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, thank you so much for taking the time to come hang out with us. I've been looking forward to getting you on for like a year.
Thanks for having me.
And finally made it happen. And I'm just so excited. I've been looking forward to this all week, and it was wonderful. So thank you very much.
Thank you again.
We're big fans of you.
Oh, I'm your guys' biggest fans. You guys know that. I'm in your chat all the time.
All right.
All right. Well, let's wrap up the love fest. We did not prepare a Tier 2 tweet of the week this week because, frankly, there was nothing good enough out there. So
I've got one.
Tier 2 tweet.
I've got one. Just
I
happened to have it up. It was relating to the excuse me, to the Will English Invitational, and it was just wholesome. It was just a tweet from Boat here. Calm down. Not Bo. Boat.
Boat. Get out of Bolt's house. What? Weird.
That's my dog is freaking out behind me. Anyway, so this is just Boat, just bragging about. He said easily one of the best weekends of his life. Like just getting to meet and hang out with other T2 players and fellow competitors. I just thought it was super wholesome and just shows the importance of these kind of community lands and stuff. And so yeah, there you go. That's your T2 tweet of the week.
Well, there we go. Well, made me look foolish in my call to get better tweets out there. That's for sure.
No, that's still applicable. That's still applicable.
Get better at Twitter, everybody. I'm looking at you, chat. All that remains to do now is to thank you all for tuning in. Thanks again, Flutey, for coming and talking to us. It's been an absolute blast. We'll be looking forward to seeing more from ISU Redbirds in the upcoming whatever we get in the next iteration of Contenders. But for now, thank you again, everyone, for watching. Thank you to Glitch for allowing us to use her remix, the King's Row theme, for our closing music. And if you've enjoyed today's show, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, go and follow us and the individual hosts. You can see our tags below us here, and Flutey as well on Twitter. And we'll be back, hopefully, all being well, next week for even more news from Overwatch Tier 2 and beyond.